Well, aloha! What is up? Whew. It is a beautiful day in Hawaii. Hopefully, my videos on Vanagon syndrome helped you to fix whatever problem you might have had on your Vanagon. And hopefully, you don't have any problems with it anymore because of it. But if you do, definitely check out the video I put together for what is known as Vanagon syndrome. And I went through a plethora of things to try to fix what was wrong with mine. That started giving me issues, and it got worse and worse and worse until it got to the point where my VW died about a mile from my house, fortunately. And I had to tow it up to my house and spent 2 months troubleshooting it. And at the same time, upgrading everything I could, replacing wires, electrical, and what have you. But inevitably, it was solved and cured, and I've been enjoying my VW, and now I get to do the fun stuff, which is to enjoy it, drive it around, camp out in it, as well as put some toys into it. So I've done lots of things, from LED lighting on the exterior to LED lighting on the interior. But today I'm going to add something that I've wanted to add for a long time. Honestly, I don't think it's necessary. This is an air-cooled 82 Vanagon. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's exactly what it says. It's an air-cooled engine. It means that there's no radiator. Most cars, almost all cars nowadays, have a radiator pumping water through the engine, through a radiator. Air's flowing through it, sends that cool water back through the engine to keep it cool. On this particular motor, and on the engines prior to this one, everything was cooled with air, meaning there's no water in it whatsoever. It's cooled by a big old fan, and of course by these air inlets that are on the side here. And they're still on Vanagons nowadays, but they kind of serve a different purpose now. But on this particular Vanagon, that air vent sucks air through there, sends it right down through the bottom here, and it basically comes out of this little square right over here, hopefully flows, gets sucked into a fan that's right down in there, and it gets sent right over all the cylinder heads on both sides. 4 cylinder heads, 2 on each side. And there's the exact same thing on the opposite side. My particular Vanagon has the ECU right there, which I think is a bad spot for it, because not only does air go through this vent here, but water and everything else. But what I did notice is when I did cure Vanagon syndrome, I pulled that ECU out and actually took it apart, and the computer on the inside looked brand new. So the housing that thing is in is actually very weatherproof. But like I said, I've always wanted to have an oil cooler for some reason. Mind you, there is an oil cooler on this VW, and it's about yay big, about the size of my hand. It's found in between cylinder number 3 and 4, if I'm not mistaken. And if I am, it really don't matter. It's sitting between 2 cylinders on the driver's side. How's that? But it's a small oil cooler that is sitting in there, and that's going to stay in there. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to add this. And there are a lot of oil coolers out there. There's some from Go Westy that are designed specifically for this D-pillar, and it's not too difficult, but it's located on the passenger side of the this VW, and the oil is actually on the driver's side, oil filter and what have you. So I ended up just doing a little research, figuring out what kind of oil cooler I could get. This one actually says it is adaptable to this vehicle. It's a universal kit. You can see everything it says right there. Pretty simple, straightforward. You could actually just use this oil cooler kit, and that's it, just to help cool the oil on a hot day. It actually adds a little more oil capacity to the engine, because you've got to fill the tubes and actually fill that up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to also add to this a fan. And while fans are normally hooked up to the coolers and controlled by a thermostat, I'm going to bypass all that. I'm going to make it a manually controlled fan. And I've got this very cool blue fan. The reason why I chose blue is because it matches my Bosch ignition coil. So, and I thought it looked cool too. There are a few different locations that you can put this oil cooler. One is in the passenger side D-pillar. One is in the driver's side D-pillar. I've seen a few videos where they've actually mounted this oil cooler on the passenger side underneath the wheel well. And this is the rear tire, and they'll actually mount an oil cooler right in this area right here. And I just think it's susceptible to lots of damage from whatever these tires pick up and throw up at it. You could put a screen and build all kinds of brackets and shields and things to protect it. But I thought, you know what? Why not try to find a spot that you don't need to do all that stuff to, and just simply keep it protected from inside the engine. At the same time, hopefully use the fan to help cool the oil cooler as well as the engine itself. So those vents that I showed you on the outside actually pull in fresh air. I've decided that I'm going to try to mount mine right here, kind of at an angle. The fan's going to be on the back of it. This ignition coil was sticking out to about right here, so as you can see, I moved it forward in this holder, so the bottom's sitting right there, and that is part of the fuel and ignition management on my vehicle anyway, and that can stay right where it is. So wish me luck. You can enjoy this journey with me as I try to mount this oil cooler right in this area here. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go under the V-dub and figure out if this oil cooler is even going to fit. So there's a sandwich plate that goes in place of where the oil filter is. So during this whole video, I'm going to show you how to change your oil and hopefully mount an oil cooler kit. So you guys sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride with me. So first things first, let's take a look in this kit here. So inside this kit, very straightforward, very simple. When you go on the internet, you're going to find all kinds of different oil coolers, all kinds of radiators like this. This one is about 16 inches long and about 7, almost 8 inches in width, or height, or depth, or however you want to say it. But that's the size of the one that I decided to get. And to be honest with you, it was something I researched and found on a couple of different VW sites that this one would be good. But again, there's all different kinds, and basically it's totally up to you which one you want to get and how much you want to spend and where you want to mount it. Yeah, I love cream soda, and I've got all kinds of other goodies over here. That's what's fun about these Westies, is there's so many different things that you can get for these things. But this is what the kit comes with. You got a bunch of hose here and a bunch of adapters. But this right here is the sandwich plate. So this goes where the oil filter would go, and then the oil filter is going to mount inside of this. So what we need to do is find out which one of these will fit up inside the factory oil filter location. So that's what I'm going to do here in just a moment. I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to put this thing in and mount it. And like I said, I'm going to hook the fan up. I'm going to manually control the fan, because to be honest with you, These VWs actually stay very cool on their own. Mine's 40 years old and it's still running and doing great. And I'm sure it's been through some hot days, hot nights, and some hot driving as well. I personally took it up into Breckenridge, and while it was cold, I went up some crazy hills. So I know it had its share of heat. But this is just something as a precaution for one. And to be honest with you, I've always wanted to put an oil cooler in here just because it looks like an intercooler. And add a fan and have a control for it. And like I said, I'm going to manually control that fan. So, hey, I'm the pilot of this ship, and I want to have as many buttons as I can press as possible. So, that's that. Anyway, give me a moment. I'm going to go underneath the VW. I'm going to pull off the oil filter, and we're going to take a look at which one of these adapters will fit. Hopefully we can get all this stuff installed and done today. So you guys hang out with me. Sit back, relax, and of course, enjoy the ride. Let's see. It's always good to take the instructions out and see exactly what we're getting ourselves into here. So we figured out a cooler location. Sandwich adapter, 2 3/4 inch O-rings. Oh, I see them. They are in here as well. I was wondering about that. There's the O-ring right there. That's what I need. So O-ring's going to go right here. And of course on this side, this is going to be the oil filter side. So the oil filter has its own seal that's going to go right around there. So that'll work out great. So we know this is going to go up into the VW just like that. And what we are going to try to do is figure out which one of these is going to fit on the VW. So I'm going to go down into the VW, underneath the belly, check out some guts, and see if we can make this thing fit. Hopefully everything I need is right inside this box and we don't have to pause and postpone this and try and order more parts. So I'll let you know how it works here in just a moment. So what we're going to do first here is go over some of the parts. Like I said, I got the oil cooler. One thing I did is I went and got one of these. This is from Go Westy, and it's just a brand new oil drain plug and a brand new washer that goes in there. So the one that's on mine has been on there for 40 years. So I'm going to let it to rest, and we're going to add a brand new stainless steel, nice one on there with a new washer as well. And then one thing I'm going to do is I've got an oil filter here. So we're going to take this oil filter and we're going to see which one of these adapters actually fits on it. It's pretty simple. Comes with like 5 of them. These little guys right here, because it is a universal adapter. And all we're going to do is just figure out which one fits. It's number 1. This one's got a little white sticker on it. The instructions actually tell you which size goes where. Voila. That's the one that's going to fit on my oil filter, and probably yours too. And this thing goes into that sandwich plate, which is this piece right here. And that goes right into that circle there. Basically it just goes in like this. Seems pretty simple so far. Let's go underneath the VW and see what happens. So, you do need a torque wrench. Unfortunately, I got one. So you're going to be setting this to 20 foot-pounds of torque here. So if you've never used one of these, it's pretty simple. You're just basically turning it. There's a whole bunch of adjustments on here that let you know where to set it. There's a whole bunch of numbers here. Get one and learn how to use it, because it's very important. A lot of people don't use it and they'll just tighten things on everywhere and anywhere, and you can create a lot of sorrow for yourself if you don't use one of these things. So it's very, very useful to have a torque wrench. But I found the right adapter for it, the one that's going to fit onto the oil filter itself. The next thing we're going to do is to go under the VW, make sure it fits. I heard a weird noise, but make sure it fits, and then figure out where we're going to run the oil lines that are going to go from that oil filter sandwich adapter, this thing here, up through the radiator and back down to this and into the engine. So that's the next thing, figuring out a location for it. We found where I would like to ideally put the cooler and the fan. Let's just make sure all the hoses and everything else can fit exactly where I want them. So we'll see how that goes out. So the next thing you want to do is go through all the parts. Make sure you've got everything that you need. These are little pieces that the hose is attached to. They're going to go right inside here. And I was a little weary about this when I saw it because I thought it was plastic. It's very light, but it turns out to be metal. Nice aluminum one, so that's really cool. You do not need to put any kind of Teflon tape onto these things. They should just screw right in without too much of a problem. One of these is your inlet, one of them is your out. I'm just going to screw those in like so. Okay, make sure that they fit, which they do. So far so good. Seems pretty simple. I will tell you, every time I lay down to work under my VW, it's so relaxing. I feel like just falling asleep. I'm taking a nice nap with the cool wind blowing. Good nap. Nice power nap. Now we got energy to go look for the oil filter. I figure while I'm down here, I'm going to give you a very basic idea of how to change oil, because we got to do it anyway. So I'm going to show you how to change oil and hopefully find a location to run the hoses for this oil cooler.